A few years ago, I made a video on this. This is a test cartridge which Nintendo employees used. What they would do is they would plug them into a regular Game Boy, and what you'd be able to do is check that the buttons work. This is basically the rarest thing I own in my collection. They are almost impossible to find, mainly because not many of them actually existed. But then eventually the Game Boy Advance came out and there was shoulder buttons, so Nintendo needed to make a new cartridge, and that is where this comes in. This is possibly one of the rarest cartridges in existence for the Nintendo Game Boy. It is the AGS, which is the Advanced Game Boy System Test Cartridge. This was exclusive to Japan. There's probably a known 10 of them to exist. Remember, most of these things got destroyed after they were done with them. I don't know how this has ended up in my hands, but yeah, I am unbelievably excited to show you this. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. Since this is a Japanese cartridge, there's a little bit of Japanese writing on the label, and if you hold up Google Translate to that, it actually says aging cartridge. What the hell does that mean? Aging in technology is referring more so to its usage, like deterioration of components and a stress test essentially. So this right here was basically something that not only was allowing Nintendo to test the actual unit, but also to stress test it, to put it through some tests. Obviously it would depend on Nintendo's protocol in terms of how much it needed to be exposed to these tests, but other than the simple things like button tests, it's actually going to have a hardware test for the internal components. Now, I love collecting these rare cartridges. I've got a bunch of different ones here. These ones are for the Nintendo DS's. Obviously, I mentioned I've got this one as well, and they're just incredibly collectible and very, very cool to have. I've got to say a massive thank you to my friend Jamie for hooking me up with this thing. Obviously, with its insane rarity, there's an insane price tag on these things. I've heard someone say that they've sold for upwards of $2,500, which is ridiculous. Obviously, only one or two have ever sold, so it's hard to really put a value on them. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with it. So, enough dilly-dallying. So let's go ahead and turn it on. We'll start off with the Game Boy, but then I'll move on to the analog pocket just so that we can see the screen better. But you can see there, the moment it turns on, it's going to start running a sort of a diagnostic. You can see it says NTR aging cartridge. We've got memory, LCD, timer, DMA, COM, key input, and interrupt. And it's saying push start to aging. So the English on this is pretty interesting. None of the buttons are doing anything, presumably other than the start one. Let's go ahead and press that. Now you can see it's beginning a test. Is that a banana? That is a banana. This is like a joke. What? Oh my, Majora's Mask. Oh man, that was fantastic. So yeah, it's going to run through this test. You can see at the bottom here, it's running through for an hour, which is pretty damn interesting. Now, it looks like it's actually just going to repeat that test again. So my friend Jamie told me that when we turn on this cartridge, if we press L and R, we actually get some options. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've turned it on and I held down L and R, and you can see that there's an actual menu here. So it says configuration, test program, and option program. So let's have a click on configuration. So we can see that there's different settings here. So we've got the self-test cartridge, key input test, and then we've got menu, LCD unit checker. So there's just a hell of a load of different tests here. We've got different types of Game Boy system, it seems. And then we've got the aging time, so you can change that to put it through a stress test for even longer. And then you've got aging log, no or yes. If we come out of here, we've got test program. So there's an LCD unit checker, a flicker adjuster, an aging cartridge, and a self-test cartridge. So this is doing the self-test, so this is responding to different button presses. That's quite cool though, it means we get to go through and actually see all of the different graphics, which is quite cool. Very random things, like there's a bus there with a starry sky. This coin has come back from before. I mean, look at that. Majora's... Oh, no, this is Ocarina of Time. And then Majora's Mask with a random slingshot there. Looks like a road in America somewhere. It's just so random. Test failed. Uh-oh. Memory failed. Oh, you know what? It's probably because it's on an analog pocket. Okay, let's turn this on again. And let's try out test program. No, in fact, you know what? Let's go configuration and go key input test. And let's see what... And let's also see what option program does. Key input test. Ah, here we go. So this is the test I was referring to earlier, the button presses, and then you got start and select. So that is actually really, really useful if you were to have some sort of faulty button. So you can see here that this is clearly a test cartridge for the Nintendo employees. So that's pretty crazy. I changed it to key input test, which means now every single time I turn on the Game Boy, it's actually saved that so that it's turned it into a button test cartridge, very much like this one. So instead of it running that automatic stress test, it's now basically default turning on and into the button press test, which is really, really cool. And then obviously to change that, you turn it off, hold down L and R as it turns on, and then you can get back into the menu again. So that's going to be it then for the actual software side of things. I think it could be funny to maybe release like an hour-long video stress testing a Game Boy. Obviously, it's made to be testing and putting a Game Boy to the limits. Obviously, a far more versatile cartridge than this one, which is just exclusive to the button test. But it's really cool to see that this one does that as well. And actually will probably be quite a handy thing for me repairing Game Boys. So some people I'm sure will be interested to see what's going on inside this cartridge. So let's go ahead and have a quick look. And it looks exactly the same as they all do. One thing that was quite interesting to me is the actual cartridge itself has quite a lot of damage on the front of it. I have absolutely no idea how that would have happened. Surely it can't be from constantly, plugging it in. I mean, I guess it could be. It really could be. It could just be that constant rubbing action from there, but it seems like something that wouldn't really be shoved in and out of many different Game Boys. I'd love to hear your theories in the comments section down below, as well as what you thought of this really cool little cartridge. We also kind of didn't mention the fact that it's yellow and grey. Interestingly, yellow cartridges are not exclusive to this as well. There was quite a few different cartridges that were actually released in yellow. I think mainly in Japan. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. So some people might not have seen the yellow before. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.